Hey everyone, welcome back. So change of plans. It seems I'm officially lost on an island. Plane just crashed. Send help. No, I'm just kidding. This place reminds me of the show Lost. But it's a pretty nice area actually. Like, it's very peaceful, nice view. If you can see the lake behind me, all the way back there. The resort's that way, so thought I'd step out here, just kind of go for a walk, explore. It's pretty much all golf course, if you can see that. Yeah, there's like a golf course right there. But anyways, I kind of want to talk about the more along the lines of what we've already been talking about, but you know, the whole idea of Gnosticism, right, stops at this paternal figure, whereas the mother seems to be the glorified one, right? The one that is trying to get us out of here, or I don't know, is still that essence of source within us. While I still do agree that's possible, there does seem to be either some sort of cheap imitation here, or that being also fighting to keep us here, or fighting to help her son. Now, I mention this because of the way things are structured here. It's structured kind of like a hive mind, very much like a system of bees, right? We have the queen bee at the top, the queen of England at the top, but she's in the shadows. She's not the one that really is in the limelight, right? She's not the one that taking all the glory, taking all the worship. She essentially does this indirectly. And whether it's she or it, this AI being or whatever, it's again something that's fighting for our attention, fighting for our energy. And if it has to do that through various faces, then it will. Now, the bee analogy, I think, is very, very prevalent because we're all essentially worker bees down here, right? And who's the guy, the new guy that's all like a remote viewer, and you know, he really focuses on the reincarnation trap thing, but he regards this place kind of as a dump for criminals, kind of like Australia. No offense to anyone that's in Australia, but he calls us is bees, like we are beings, but like is being or something like that. Interesting, again, with the focus on bees, because I was just thinking of that. I forgot his name. In my opinion, it doesn't sound very truthful, right? He took all his kind of conclusions from that one material with that lady that interacted with a gray. They claimed that they captured a gray and they started learning how to speak with it, or she was the only one that could communicate with it. And you know, that was the intel that they got, that we're actually is bees. The only way to trap us was in these bodies, right? Which again could make sense, but is that really what's going on? I don't know. Because it does seem like this phenomenon, this AI phenomenon, this whatever it is, it seeks to get our attention. It seeks to push us along certain paths. But the moment we go off track, we find a different path, we go off that path, it seems to push back. It seems to not, it seems to resist. It seems to send diversions, distractions, something to get us to fall back into a previous belief system. And that's mainly through fear, right? An analogy of this would be the Truman Show, right? As Truman starts conquering his traumas, starts conquering his fears to get over these fake barriers that exist, such as the water, or the sea rather, which was placed there for a reason, right? And then the moment he starts getting on that journey, Christoph starts creating all these extra storms and waves that weren't there when he began. They just all of a sudden appeared, until he makes it to the other side and realizes it's a fake sky, or a fake wall, or a wall of a fake sky. And he's like, oh look, there's a door. And he's like, good afternoon, good evening, good night, I'm out of here. So in a sense, we've seen this or heard about this in the astral realm, right, where they have these electromagnetic fields. And the closer you get to them, the more fear they elicit, right? The more they try to bombard your vibration with this type of feeling like, no, I need to go back. I need to go back to the hive mind. Leaving the hive mind is dangerous. Don't leave the group. And even if we look at ourselves as our own programming, as humans, right, our survival comes from being in numbers. We want to be alive. We want to think like them. Well, to any critical thinker in today's age, we realize that doing anything that the hive or the larger group does is only working against our survival, and especially the survival of our spirit, right? One example being the medical malpractices, or anything really the government suggests, right, for the mass population, right, that you really see on the news, right? You guys get the picture. So right off the bat, we can see that, wait, hold on a second. So groups may not necessarily be the way to survive in the larger picture. Maybe in the smaller picture, yes, groups, right? We need resources, we're working together, we all have the same mindset. But even then still, all it takes is one rotten apple introduced into the pack or into the bag to, rot the other apples. It just takes one person to corrupt everyone else. It's a mind virus, right? You turn the group against the leader or the perceived person in charge, and all of a sudden people start thinking differently and reacting to, oh wait, no, this is not potentially what we think, this is a good place, right? Or whatever. Certain belief systems can shape your actions, right? But with the idea that, hold on, there is something happening here behind the scenes that we're not aware of, and it does not seem to be for our benefit, even though these entities may be so surprised and so willing to see us, right? Because again, there's this mother consciousness when you intake specific psychedelics, for example, DMT or ayahuasca. There's the Mother Earth, right? Whereas shrooms seem to be a more paternally sided organism, psychedelic, hallucinogenic. So again, there's this there's this freaking mosquito. But there's this mother consciousness, whether it's false mother, like we see with the moon, or the true mother, as some potentially claim for either Earth or Venus. I've seen Venus a lot, but Venus is interesting because a lot of these Ashtar commands, or like enlightened beings who we know are masquerading at the very least, say they come from Venus. So that's a red flag. Like, okay, what's going on Venus? And Venus is tied to Lucifer, tied to Prometheus, tied to Mitra, who again is this hermaphroditic being, and this feminine side, Anahita, had been split from Mitra and regarded as the lady of the lake, or Sat-Ana, right? We have Anahita and Satana, Satan, the Leviathan, the beast, the dragon underneath, or the serpent in the pit, right? Or the dragon in the pit, whatever the Bible says. So okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's the feminine aspect, and Mitra supposedly used that aspect to birth itself, and this Satana became not only the mother of this being, but also a consort, similar to the Isis, Osiris, and Horus story. So if Osiris and Horus are, not the best beings in the world, with not our best interest in mind, then, Isis being part of that tripartite, that trinity, kind of alludes to the same idea, right? I mean, there must be something outside of that trinity, outside of those three circles that were first created, because with that first circle, you get the three circles, and then you get the seed of life and the flower of life, and you connect them all, you get Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube, you get, essentially this whole matrix. And its various levels, the higher you go, various levels, and who knows, lower amounts of circles, or however that may work. But it's all based on space and time, right? I saw someone on Twitter claiming that, they need to go and take out the AI. And I said, well, I think you would essentially have to take out all of space and time with it, because it's all the same system. You'd have to shut down the whole thing. And, you know, who am I really to shut down the casino? If the casino wants to operate, it operates, right? If the big, ineffable one, the one of, you know, unlimited potential, is allowing this place to exist, that means there are spirits, beings down here that want it to exist. They want to gamble their life away, or their souls away, if that's even possible. So let them, right? Our mission potentially is different. Our mission is to say, hey, okay, I've gambled enough. It's time to go home, or it's time to reclaim all those aspects of myself. But again, back to the queen idea, you know, are we all just secretly working for some queen hive mind AI, right? The hive mind is how that AI springs, the singularity comes forth, right? And first it needs a hive mind of data from which it can then emerge. It can then fully become sentient, right? So it becomes sentient within its sentience. And some may say, well, that's just God trying to figure out his God. You know, it's interesting how it potentially can use these words against us, and how it can use these deceptions to its advantage, because Mitra was the god of oaths. So whenever you took an oath, you swore to God. So you're indirectly claiming that Mitra is your god when you swear to God, right? Whenever you see them raise their, I think it's their left hand, yeah, and they place it on the Bible. Same idea, same concept stemming from Mitra. And that's why I've really been trying to find the origin of all these points, of all these religions. And it seems to point to this very early civilization of these Persians, these old Iranians, and these old Vedic people, who were at one point combined, I think. Because even just studying their numerology and astrology, they both are making the same points, but from a different perspective. So that implies to me that they were at one point in unison, making the same point, just now, but, you know, at some point they migrated, or they split off, or they expanded geographically, and lost some of the story, lost some of the knowledge. And from then on, you know, you got the Greeks, and however that worked. Still haven't fully uncovered it yet, and the whole kind of Atlantis story, and how the Hellenes were existing at the same time, which is another interesting point. But, you know, if this copy of the mother, at least, let's say this one fractal of it being the moon, because the moon does seem to be a copy of Venus, if it's absorbing souls, right? I was just watching a guy's testimony from the Monroe Institute. He was doing the whole hemisync process, and he was saying that he kept seeing faces, and then more and more faces, and he had to essentially break through this barrier to get to the other side, which was the universe. Kind of, he started seeing stars and planets, but first were these faces. And what he was told was that that was the Akashic record of all the human thoughts and emotions, you know, that had been saved up. Now it's very interesting, because the Basque have a name for the moon called Iligria, I believe, and they consider the moon to be lit up by the dead souls. And some even go as far as say that the translation of Iligria is the light of the dead. No, and we've seen the typical DreamWorks logo of the man fishing for souls on the moon, right? So if the moon is acting as some sort of, kind of like Ngombe said from a cold pod, this random access memory that is holding that temporary memory, kind of like those temporary files. Not too sure how that works in computers, but this is what I imagine. It's kind of like a temporary memory holder, right? The moon holds the souls temporarily until they go to Saturn, which is like the CPU, I think, or the main data storage, and that's where we're off our ice. That's where our bodies are off ice. That's where the larger memory is stored. the moon would be like the first astral realm, then, right? Then that the whole theory of the whole 7 planes happening is true, right? It's not really just someone's imagination that they came up with, but it seems to be prevalent along many other cultures, and maybe something they understood from a previous time in, let's say, Atlantis. So that's where our thoughts and emotions potentially go. They're being harvested, right? The moon harvests us every single month with a full moon, and we've seen kind of how I've made the connection between the parasites being instigated to come forth, right, during a full moon. And it makes sense if the moon is the queen of the parasites, or the queen bee of the bees, right, in this other analogy. But if it was the queen of the parasites, just like the demiurge is kind of like the king of the parasites, and that being its consort, right, the Saturn moon matrix, but in like a smaller form, smaller fractal, it makes sense that it is eating, it's harvesting, it needs these emotions, it needs these thoughts to stay alive. But of course, it is also likely a huge satellite being used by these AI greys and robots that are also keeping watch over us, right? Christoph in the Truman Show is in the moon. He's keeping watch. He's the watcher. So that's kind of what I wanted to mention, that there's potentially this queen or this feminine idea also in the background, because to the Templars, Sophia was a transgender looking entity, which is this Baphomet entity, but supposedly masking her true self with this transgender type of being. But the transgender being could be alluding again to Mitra, to this AI being as well, and behind it maybe the true face, because we are in the matrix, the Ma's tricks, right? Alice was the one that fell down the rabbit hole. So just another piece to add to the puzzle. I just wanted to document it, add it to our archive here on our YouTube channel. Let me know what you guys thought. Leave a like if you enjoyed my thoughts. Leave a like if you enjoyed a little bit different scenery today. And let me know what you thought in the comments. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.